they watching, I'ma make them sweat. Put your money down, place your bets. Degenerate, yeah, I'm a sicko. Who else gon' get you to the window? I know they watching, I'ma make them sweat. Put your money down, place your bets. Degenerate.
Hey, yo, welcome to Graybo's Giblets. We are now proud to announce that we are part of the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Network. This is a partnership about a year in the making with our boy Paul Hickey out there at NoOffSeason.com and Sports Card Strategy, and very excited to be part of his network. So thanks to Paul and the crew for letting us join. We are out here dropping giblets. I'm your host, Denny One Time. For a very special episode, we're doing a 2023-24 college basketball preview. And I bring to you the resource, the guru, Gray. Of all of the things that you do, I think this might be the thing you're best at, is telling the people about how to bet college basketball. How excited are you?
I'm super excited. Starts November 6th. Then we have some big games, Duke, Michigan State, and Kansas. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to give out some futures. We were close last year. I didn't have UConn, but that was one of my dad's picks. So, and we also had UConn for a lot of brackets and some pools we were in. So we were able to pull some money from that. So March Madness is one of my favorite things in the world. And leading up to it, I just can't wait to watch college basketball again.
Yeah, so before we preview the top five, I like to remind folks that if you're like us and you go to Market Movers for data on sports cards, you can save 20% after a free 14-day trial. Go to marketmoversapp.com, use the promo code NOOFFSEASON. All right, great. So let's get in the top five. For the folks following along at home, number 5, Marquette. Number 4, Michigan State. Number 3, Purdue with Big Zach. Number 2, Duke, Filipowski and the boys. And then Kansas, who got a big transfer in the offseason that I'm sure you're going to talk about. So great. Break down the top 5 for me.
Yeah, I think, first of all, they did a pretty good job with the preseason top 5. What I would like to talk about first is kind of the recipe of my national contenders, what I look for when I am breaking down my top 5. You know, you have these Duke and Kentucky teams that always reload with one-and-done talents, great athletes. But I look for upperclassmen that have been to the dance before and have that experience in big games. That's the number one thing I look for. And then the second thing I look for is an elite point guard that can distribute the ball, that can defend, not turn the ball over. UConn had that with Tristan Newton, who is returning. You also need a skilled big man that can take over games. That was Sonogo. So you had 3 of the 5 things. Number 4, you needed an athlete that can defend the other team's best player. He's your best athlete. He's your best rebound. Can get you a bucket when you need it. Can handle the ball when the point guard is in the jam. He's kind of your glue piece, and that was Andre Jackson. And then you have to have shooters. I mean, look what happened to Purdue against Fairleigh Dickinson. They packed the paint. Edey was triple teamed, and they just couldn't shoot. UConn had that with Jordan Hawkins, one of the best shooters in the country last year, who is now in the NBA. So that is kind of the recipe that I'm looking for this year's national contenders. So with that being said, my top 5, I kind of have a 5B, 5A. My 5B, just outside my top 5, is Duke. So they are number 2 starting out, and I see why. This is the first year that Duke might not have a starting freshman in their projected starting 5, which is interesting and also good for them, for John Shire's second year. I also have them kind of number 6 and not number 2 because it is Shire's second year. I think he still has to prove a lot. The ACC is going to be tough. But I will say I'll be betting my biggest unit on Duke to win the ACC. I do think they run away with it, and here's why. They're the clear favorite to win. They bring back 2 NBA prospects that could have left after their freshman year, but decided to come back, and one being, I think, Tyrese Proctor, who will be in the backcourt with Jeremy Roach. Tyrese Proctor is the All-American sophomore. He's probably a top 10 NBA draft pick next year. He started out very poorly last year as a freshman. You know, he didn't know the pace of the game yet. He was getting bullied, you know, when he was trying to drive in the paint. He was turning the ball over. And then he was probably one of the best players that matured last year throughout the whole season. And now he's coming back with all that experience. He is a streaky shooter, and that's why Duke, I don't think, is going to win a national championship. They have a lot of streaky shooters, but they can get hot. And if they get hot, you can definitely see them in the Final Four. Jeremy Roach is a senior that decided to come back, so you have that senior captain leadership who will contend for ACC Player of the Year. I have one of the best big men in the ACC, and Filipowski coming back. He's a sophomore. Mark Mitchell is a sophomore. So all these guys that were freshman All-Americans, deciding to come back for Shire tells you a lot about John Shire's coaching and how he can get guys to stay on the team. I love that. I think he's a really good coach. And then you need that one role player, to do the little things, set those screens, get you a rebound here and there, and that's Ryan Young, who came over from Northwestern a couple years ago. I believe he's a junior. I know it was a transfer. I don't know with all the rules now if he's a senior or junior, but he's an upperclassman. And that doesn't mean they don't have McDonald's All-Americans, because they have 3 freshmen that are very good that will, from the bench, will learn a lot from these upperclassmen. That's TJ Power, Jared McCain, and Sean Stewart. So that's my first team.
Filipowski, is he a top 3 candidate for Player of the Year in your
Oh, yeah. So they have 3 guys that can easily win ACC Player of the Year, and that's Proctor, Roach, and Filipowski.
Yeah.
I think Filipowski has probably the best upside. Just because he was one of their leading scorers last year.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think Proctor is a better NBA prospect.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, let's roll into your number 5 pick.
Yeah,
Houston.
One of the teams that was not in the AP top 5 is Houston. They're number 3 overall on KenPom. If you're a college basketball fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about when you talk about KenPom rankings. So he has Houston as the number 3 offensive team, adjusted offense, and that's like taking 100 possessions. And then he has them number 5 in adjusted defense. So they're a really good team, a sneaky team to win a national title. They bring back Jamal Sheed. One of the best things they did was get LJ Cryer from Baylor, who is a national champion. And guess what? Houston's in the Big 12 this year. A lot of people don't realize that conferences are different this year. It's not like football where you're going to see that next year. But Baylor will be playing Houston, and LJ Cryer knows that team very well. So that's sneaky. I really like Houston to win the Big 12. We'll see if they're one of my Final Four picks down the line. They also got Damian Dunn, a guard from Temple, one of the Temple's leading scorers. And Juwan Roberts is a forward that is a very good all-around player. They're a very small team. Like I said, Juwan Roberts is a forward. They'll be playing 4 guards and a forward. So Juwan Roberts is going to have to guard some big guys. But Houston's scrappy on defense, great coach, great experience in the tournament. And then the X factor is going to be Terrence Arsenault, who was a freshman last year, didn't get a lot of minutes. So that's kind of the missing piece. They really need him to step up as a sophomore this year.
Okay. All right. So number 4. Tell me who's the head coach of number 4.
Number 4 is the National Coach of the Year, Shaka Smart, who I think has made a home in Marquette. And here's why. I know Marquette got bounced in the second round last year, but here's why they're number 4. They only lost 1 starter, Maxwell Prosper, to the NBA, and they bring back 4 of their 5 starters. And this is a team that won the freaking Big East.
Yeah.
They were a 2 seed. So it's not like they're going to go away. This is definitely a second weekend team this year. I think they learned from their mistakes. I mean, the tournament's tough, right? It's 1 loss, go home. You start panicking when you're shooting cold, and you kind of lose focus. And it's one of the best tournaments in the world because the underdogs feel like they can win every game. You saw with Florida Atlantic. So Tyler Kolek, who is probably going to be the preseason Big East Player of the Year and preseason All-American, is back. Stevie Mitchell was the 6th man last year. So it's not like, they're bringing 4 starters back, and their 6th man is just jumping in a starting role. They're a very good team. Cam Jones, the shooter from the outside, David Joplin, and then their big man, Iguodaro, are going to lead this Marquette team. Iguodaro and Kolek are very, very good.
Okay. So that's 6, 5, and 4. Who do you have at number 3?
Yeah, let's speed it up a little bit. My number 3 team and number 2 are going with 2 Big Ten teams. Number 3, you always say January, February, Izzo. When it comes to March, it is Tom Izzo's Michigan State Spartans. You probably will see them in the Final Four. They're going to be one of my picks in the Final Four. Bringing back everybody except Joey Hauser, so also bringing back 4 out of 5 starters. One of their starters is going to now come off the bench because they bring in a freshman, Xavier Booker, to be their big man. What I like about Michigan State is they have no superstars. They play as a team. They didn't go to the transfer portal, so their chemistry is excellent. One of the best backcourts in the country with Tyson Walker and A.J. Hoggard. That's how you pronounce it. And I think Tyson Walker might take that role as, if they need a bucket, he's going to want the ball in his hands. But they just share the ball so well. They also have Jaden Atkins and Malik Hall. You're not going to see anybody, scoring over 12 points a game on that team. It's going to be spread out scoring, great defensive play, and what they don't do a lot is turn the ball over, and that is going to be key when it comes to March Madness and Big Ten play. To go off of that, I know you guys were giving me some eyes when I talked about Purdue. I almost had Purdue number 1 here, but because they lost to a 16 seed, Fairleigh Dickinson, I know a lot of people say that and they're like, oh man, Purdue, Painter can't win the big games. I think Purdue, who was a team that won the Big Ten, was the number 1 overall seed, have the National Player of the Year, Zach Edey, coming back. Braden Smith is now a sophomore. He was one of the best point guards as a freshman, back. Fletcher Lawyer, back, who transferred in from Davidson a couple years ago. Mason Gillis, who also started. And then they bring in Ethan Morton and Caleb Furst, who were the 6th and 7th man off the bench. This team is still very, very, very good. And I think they might be in the national championship. And if you remember, there was another team that lost to a 16 seed and then won the national championship the next year.
Who was that?
Incredible performance. Shock and awe in college basketball. UMBC makes history in Charlotte.
Do you remember?
I do. I recall that.
My UVA Who's.
Mm-hmm.
So I think history might repeat itself here. But a lot of people don't believe in Painter. He, doesn't have this great record in the tournament, but he is one of the best coaches in the country. So I do think they'll be ready. They also lost to UVA in that Elite 8 overtime game where UVA ended up winning the national championship, if you remember that.
So this year it might be January, February, Painter.
Man, I think it is. I think that's going to be my pick here later in the show. But number 1, you have to give the nod to Kansas, and they are the AP number 1 team to start the year. They went out and got the best transfer in the portal, Hunter Dickinson. They needed a big man. They got him. He could be National Player of the Year, and he's going to Kansas. Bill Self is back. He had that heart condition or health issues and didn't coach in the tournament. So he's back. They also got KJ Adams back, who now can play the 4. He was their 5, and now he's going to be the 4. DeJuan Harris Jr., one of the best point guards in the country. Maybe not one of the best scorers, but he does all the little things. And then one of my favorite, most underrated players is Kevin McCullough Jr. Started last year. He was on that Texas Tech national championship team that lost to UVA, then came over to Kansas 2 years ago, and then he decided to come back. He's the X factor. He's that guy that a lot of people are like, who is that? And you're going to see him this year fighting for the Big 12 Player of the Year, in my opinion. And the other big thing they did is they went out to a small school, Townsend, and got their best player, Nick Timberlake, who averaged 20 points a game. And then, of course, they reload with the freshman All-American Elmarko Jackson. So you give the nod to Kansas, but I do think Purdue take that over soon and shortly.
Well, yeah, man, that's a very thorough breakdown of the top 6. Very interested to so you've got Player of the Year, National Player of the Year, though. Is Edey your guy?
It has to be. I mean, he was last year. He's got to be the favorite this year as well.
All right, so let's get into some conference winners. Before we do that, I'd like to remind folks that you can go on the Whatnot app. You can get $15 for free by joining through whatnot.sportscardstrategy.com. Check it out, and once you get there, go to Graybo's room where we break most weeknights on Whatnot at 7 p.m. So let's get into some conference futures. Let's start with the Big East, and let me know what futures you're looking at to win the Big East.
Yeah, there's three that I like here. One, you go back, and this is where the money's made right here. This is where I'll be spending a lot of my units on conferences. You always love to throw darts at a national champion, and then in games during the season. But you can win some big money here because there's a lot of good value. First on FanDuel, I will be taking Marquette plus 250. You're bringing back everybody, and you won it last year. Go get that before it goes down. And then there's two other teams that you should consider. The Creighton Blue Jays at plus 300 on DraftKings, and the Villanova Wildcats plus 600. You can't find plus 600 on FanDuel or Barstool or DraftKings, but I have it on Sportsbook AG, which is through my bookie. I don't know if you can say that on here. Cut that.
Edit that. Yeah. Hits for it fits. And for it fits. Just go ahead and edit any illegal activity.
Any illegal activity. Okay. So Villanova plus 600. I don't know if you can still get that, but I still like them because they bring back Dixon and Justin Moore, and then they also went out and got TJ Bumba from Washington State. They got Hakeem Hart, the shooter from Maryland. So Villanova is a team that and they also got Tyler Burton from Richmond. You remember him?
Oh, yeah.
So they got a good starting lineup. Justin Moore is coming off injury. And then they also got Lance Ware from Kentucky. So I love Villanova at that value that you can get. So Marquette would be my number one, Creighton 2, Villanova 3.
Okay. Let's move on to the Big 12. Are you thinking Houston, Baylor, both?
I really like Baylor on FanDuel 10-1. Everywhere else, you're going to get them at like 5-1, 4-1. It's a very sneaky team. Yes, they did lose LJ Cryer, but Jalen Bridges is probably one of the most underrated players in the nation. He can also be in the running for Big 12 Player of the Year, and they have one of the best coaches in Scott Drew. And then there's Houston at plus 400. But I'm going to be taking Baylor to win the Big 12.
And 10-1. That's
at 10-1
value there. All right, so let's move over to the ACC. You going chalk here?
I'm going chalk, Duke plus 140, and this will be my biggest bet of the year.
Lock it up.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
I'm going to put 4 units on Duke to win the ACC.
Woo, 4 units.
Yeah.
Woo.
I think that is probably my biggest lock of the year.
Okay.
Even though I'm a huge Virginia fan, I just think Duke is way too much, and they finally have experience instead of these one-and-done teams.
All right. So chalk in the ACC. Let's head to the American Conference. You got anything you like there?
In the American Conference, guess who's coming to the American Conference? Houston left. Florida Atlantic is coming in. Another one that is the favorite, but Memphis will contend for that. But Florida Atlantic brings back everybody from a Final Four team. Everybody. I mean, their bench, their starters, and they're gonna roll. I don't see them repeating a Final Four, but I definitely see them as conference champions for sure.
All right. Progressing along to the Big Ten.
Big Ten, you got to go with Purdue. I think they run away with the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten is down this year besides Purdue and Michigan State. I mean, you can get them at plus 250 for all the reasons I said earlier. I bring back 4 of their 5 starters. Their 6th man and 7th man are back as well, and Caleb First and Ethan Morton. And then Painter is just such a great coach. And this is not tournament. This is conference. So just win the conference.
I didn't say anything. All right, SEC. Who you like?
All right, this might be a surprise, but this is one of my Final Four teams as well.
Woo!
Texas A&M.
Aggies.
The Aggies. They will have actually the preseason Big 12 Player of the Year. Wade Taylor IV. They bring back Tyrese Radford. Henry Coleman, shout out Richmond, who transferred from Duke, played at Trinity in Richmond, Virginia. Julius Marble's back. And then they got Manny Obaski, who's going to have to step up as a sophomore. They have 2 transfers. They went out and got 2 transfers from Middle Tennessee and Illinois, Chicago, Eli Lawrence and Jace Carter, who can fill it up, and they'll come off the bench. But Wade Taylor and Tyrese Radford last year Very good combo. Texas A&M was a 3 seed last year in the tournament. They competed with Tennessee and Kentucky. I really like this team. This is my TCU from last year. Texas A&M is going to be my TCU from last year. Really like the Aggies.
All right. You heard it here first, folks. So that's some 550 action there. Okay.
Just got to beat Tennessee.
That's
They'll
it.
have no problem with Kentucky.
Okay. You heard it here, folks. Pac-10. Who do we like?
All right, Pac-10 is an easy one. I think Arizona also runs away with it at plus 200 on DraftKings. Go get that one. They're projected, I think, in the top 10 to start the season. I don't remember what the AP poll had them at, but they got Ballo back. They got Caleb Love from North Carolina. I know that throws some people off because he's a ball hog and shoots it a lot, but he's a great player. And then they also got Jaden Bradley, who was the starting point guard at Alabama last year until he was benched. So he's going to run points this year for Zona. And then they also got Kashad Johnson from San Diego State. So they're bringing in a lot of transfers and just reloading from a really good team last year. I mean, the only team I think that can contend with them is USC. But I think USC is too young and not ready for this powerful Arizona team.
Yeah, AP's got them at 12.
Number 12.
USC down to 21.
Okay.
All right, finally, let's head over to the Mountain West. You got somebody there.
Yeah, so I had some bonus plays. Mountain West was one of them. Everyone's on San Diego State after their run last year, but they lost a lot of guys in the transfer portal. You know, they were a deep team, though, so they'll still be pretty good. But New Mexico, plus 400 on DraftKings. They started out so well last year and then faded away because they weren't a very good defensive team. They still bring back their best offensive players in Jalen House and Jamal Mashburn Jr., but then they also bring some help in for defense with Mustafa Mzeel from Dayton and Nelly Jr. Joseph from Iona will be the big man in the middle. They're going to be hard to beat. I think when they match up with San Diego State, just split that series, one at home, one away. I think they have a better schedule than San Diego State to take the conference.
Okay, folks, whether you're betting the big conferences, some of the mid-majors, Graybo's laid out some futures for you so you can ride along, get a little action. And as you know, I love to bet the mid-majors personally. So let's head into our segment number 3, future national championship picks. I'd like to remind everybody that at graybos.co, our website, you can get 10% off any purchase that's singles, raw, singles graded, or wax. We already have good prices. You can get an additional 10% off using the promo code STRATEGY2023. So go ahead and do that. All right, Gray. Obviously, we've heard who you like most likely to win it all, but who are you actually betting? What darts are you throwing to win it all?
Yeah, we got some darts here. My first one, 150 to 1. You will not see. I got this really, really early. Really early. They're now probably like 75, 70 to 1. And that is the Wisconsin Badgers.
You said it again.
Wisconsin Badgers.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Just like it reads, yeah. It's just like it's spelled. Yep. All right, so
I said Wisconsin.
Yeah,
they're going to win.
You got them at 150 to 1?
I got them at 150 to 1. They're now probably, if I'm looking here, 75, 70 to 1. But they bring back everybody.
What time of year did you bet them at 150 to 1?
Gosh, I don't remember.
What it was in the off season for some.
Remember,
there is no off
season. But they got Chucky Hepburn. They got Walls back, who can be a Big Ten first teamer. And they bring back their center. So they bring back all 5 of their starters in a weak Big Ten this year. I think the Big Ten is down. We know what the Big Ten does in the tournament. Not very well, besides Michigan State. And then they have shooters on the outside. So they have all the things that I said earlier about a national contender, but they don't have the athletes. That's why it's probably it's a big risk, but it's only a sprinkle, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. What else?
Texas A&M, like I said, got them at 60 to 1 on Barstool. You can still get them 60 to 1. That's the best. I think they're like 50 to 1 on DraftKings. I'm going Tennessee 30 to 1. I always go back to Tennessee. They lost to Florida Atlantic in the Elite 8 last year. Do you know why? Anybody?
Why is that, Gray?
Anybody? Ziegler, their point guard, was hurt. He went down. in conference player in the first round. Point guard. Got to have a point guard to win the tournament. They bring back Vescovi, their best shooter. They have Josiah James, who was hurt at the beginning of the year. Now he's ready to go. I really like Tennessee to make a move, and that's why I have Texas A&M and Tennessee. I think that's going to be a great battle for the SEC. Creighton. Bet it twice. Didn't mean to. I got him at 45-1. Then I bet him again at 30-1.
So nice you bet it twice.
I love Creighton. I always bet him. I bet him last year. They lost Nembhard to Gonzaga. Gonzaga is going to be sneaky good, but they kept everyone else. Kaluma also left to Kansas State, but they bring in a couple good freshmen, and McDermott is one of the best coaches in the nation. And the two big plays that they did was getting Isaac Trout from Virginia, who didn't step foot on the court at Virginia, was a 4-star. They tried to redshirt him, and he just transferred. And then Stephen Ashworth, the point guard for Utah State, I think he is a better scorer than Nembhard. We saw all the Utah State boys go to VCU, but this is the best player from Utah State. So unfortunately, VCU did not get him.
Interesting.
But Stephen Ashworth is awesome. And they also still have Baylor Skylerman, the small forward shooter, and Trey Alexander, and then Ryan Kalkbrenner, the 6'11", 7-foot monster in the middle. So I really like Creighton. They project number 10 in my rankings and playing in the Big East. Then Gonzaga, always has been like number 1 these last couple of years, and now they're, 15, ranked number 15 in the nation. You can get them at 30-1 on FanDuel. They got the best player from Wyoming. They picked up Nembhard from Creighton. I know they lost Drew Timme, but Mark Few is an offensive genius. Gonzaga will be in the running come March, and they play in the West Coast Conference. Just have to get through St. Mary's. St. Mary's will be good, but Gonzaga, I don't think will have a problem with that. So I like Gonzaga at 30-1. Villanova 40-1 for all the reasons I said earlier with Justin Moore, Dixon, and then all the transfers they got. Houston and Marquette, you can get at 22-1 on Barstool. Everywhere else, they're like 18, 17, 15. So Barstool has really good odds on Houston and Marquette for everything I said earlier. Then Michigan State, I wish that number was a little longer, but 15-1 I will take. So those are going to be my futures this year.
Yeah, talk about a sport with parity. When you can beat the top 4, top 5, and still get 22-1, there's a lot of parity. Anything can happen.
Exactly. So, yeah, any questions on that?
Fitz would like you to know he hasn't seen this many outrights since his Farmers Insurance Open ticket last year, where he probably got the winner and lost 3 units. Probably.
That's what you can do early in the college basketball season. Go get some numbers, because those numbers, like, I'll just be happy if Houston is like maybe about 4-1 going into the tournament, and I got a 22-1 ticket. Right? So
yeah, absolutely.
That's why I do it. I love college basketball.
You buy in those 8, 9 teams, any of it pop, you win money. You probably get some cash out opportunities down the road. And you really, you could hedge towards the end by betting Purdue or whoever, ends up playing against one of these teams in the national championship final. So let's head into your final 4 national champion picks. I texted your father, Don B, to try to figure out who he liked. And his exact answer was good question, not Virginia or Virginia Tech.
I do think Virginia is going to struggle a little bit this year, but we have some good pieces.
Yeah, so I would like to give Don B some credit. Last year, you, me, and our counselor, Keith Harvey, cashed a big ticket on UConn winning it all. And I asked Don B in January last year who's going to win it all. He looked at me and said, UConn. Like Noah's Ark. They got 2 everything. And then he pivoted off that later. UConn had like a rough end of the year, had some injuries. When everybody got healthy again, they were the best team in the country by far.
Just blew everyone out, too.
Yeah. All right, so let's go into the Final Four. Come March, who's playing the Final Four and who's winning?
All right, my Final Four, 3 of them are pretty straightforward from top 5. We got Purdue, Michigan State, and Marquette. And then my kind of team out of nowhere to make the Final Four is Texas A&M.
Okay, nice. I like it. It's a little chalky, but then you throw in A&M, and then who wins?
It is redemption again. Purdue over Michigan State, a Big Ten final. a Big Ten final. Because you never see Big Ten teams go this far. I think, though I said the Big Ten is not down this year, they have 2 really good teams.
Is this 16-over-1 thing, the psychology of it, playing into this? How UVA all off season thought about that game, and then Purdue's doing the same thing?
I don't think so. I really don't.
They're just
I
good.
just think they're good. They
Yeah.
won the Big Ten last year. And people are going to be, against them the whole year. That's going to give them motivation. The scariest game will be when they're 1 seed again, playing the 16 seed. Like Virginia was down again, like 8 points early in that game. You could see it, like the tension.
Mhm.
Once they figure it out and just play ball, Denny.
Yeah.
Purdue is my team to win it all.
Okay. Anything else you want to mention? Any sleeper teams?
Yeah, sleeper teams. I mentioned earlier New Mexico. I also like St. Mary's. I like Xavier because they're getting back Zach Fremantle, who missed almost all last season. Sean Miller just signed another contract. Xavier's sneaky, and they'll get in the tournament. Arkansas is very interesting. When they get in the tournament, they make a lot of noise. Musselman has done a great job with that team. They bring back Devontae Davis is the only starter they bring back, but Trayvon Brazil, who tore his ACL, I think last year, or did something, had a season-ending surgery before the season started, was supposed to be their best player. Came from Missouri. They got a talented freshman in Bay Fall. But listen to all the transfers they got. All these guys that are transferring in started on their team last year. And they're not like bad teams. So you have Traymon Mark coming in from Houston. He'll start. Khalif Battle coming in from Temple. He's projected to start. But then Kenyon Minifield from Washington started for Washington. Will come off the bench. Chandler Lawson from Memphis. L. Ellis, the only good player on Louisville last year, will be coming off the bench this year. And then Jeremiah Davenport from Cincinnati, also a very good starter on Cincinnati, will be coming off the bench. So Arkansas just reloads with transfers. If they can come together and build that team chemistry, Arkansas can make another deep run.
And just keeping track of the transfer portals, giving me a freaking seizure.
I know.
It is what it is. Okay.
And so that's why I want to highlight some of the key players where they're going transfers. So we didn't really talk about UConn. Can UConn repeat? Absolutely. It's just very hard to do. And one way they're going to do that is Cam Spencer, who came from Rutgers, will be starting on UConn. Jaden Bradley and Caleb Love. Talked about one from Alabama, one from UNC going to Arizona. Your boy, Mad Max from Oral Roberts, one of the leading scorers in the country, is now at Texas. So we finally get to see him in the big games. Cormac Ryan, Notre Dame, and Harrison Ingram from Stanford are now at North Carolina. Here's a guy that people are going to didn't know last year, but they're going to know this year is Grant Nelson. From North Dakota State is going to Alabama. He's an absolute beast. Javon Quinterly, Bama to Memphis. Caleb Mills, who went from FSU to Memphis, and he started in Houston. And then Arthur Kaluma, the best athlete on Creighton, is going to Kansas State. Those are some names that you should remember.
Yeah, that's a lot going on.
The transfer portal is wild. Wild West.
I'm glad somebody can keep track of it. Well, folks, special thanks to Graybo. His research, his encyclopedic knowledge of college basketball stands alone. This is a longer episode than normal because it's a once a year type thing. But maybe we'll do a half year check-in, Gray, where we can see how your picks are doing. Maybe at that point, I will have done some research. I might have an opinion on some things. I don't yet, but give me some time. But that is all for today. Good luck with your bets. Thanks, as always, for listening and riding along with Graybos. Check out our website, graybosgiblets.com, for all of our information, links to our Discord, etc. You can email us at info@graybos.co. Follow us on the gram at graybos_cards. And please, for the love of God, stop by our card shop located at 214 East Gray Street in the Arts District of Richmond. I appreciate you riding along with Graybo.
Giblets.
When I go to sleep, I don't see sheep, see dollar signs. $100 got him beat the eyes for the 100th time at a money line. Brock Purdy was irrelevant, now I'm at the front like a cutting line. G5 to the power 5, Gray was on fire like it's summertime. I know they watching, I'ma make them sweat. Put your money down, place your bets. Degenerate, yeah, I'm a sicko. Who else gon' get you to the window? I know they watching, I'ma make them sweat. Put your money down, place your bets. Degenerate, yeah, I'm a sicko. Who else gon' get you to the